Gutierrez, Torrey, and Ryan. Hello, gentlemen. Today, series you thought was never a series, that is. Series you thought was over, that's not. A series that is over, and Game 8's not happening, Islanders fan. At a presidential visit or an Apple Watch. It's the plight of Tom Brady in a trench coat. Crazy. Very Dick Tracy, yes. Orioles White Sox postpone again today. Tomorrow's game will be played in Baltimore, closed to the public. Weekend series moved to Tampa. City of Baltimore with far more important and pressing and critical issues. And this, of course, far from a sports story, Jay Adonde. But before we start the show, would you care to share your thoughts on the City of Baltimore?
Well, first, the people doing the burning and looting are opportunists, not protesters. But the larger question we have to ask is, why does America keep creating these opportunities for expressions of violence? And that's something that John Angelos, the COO of the Baltimore Orioles and the son of owner Peter Angelos, got into in a series of tweets, very thought-provoking tweets, in which he looked at the decades of neglect for urban America and the way it's manifesting itself in these actions right now.
Israel Gutierrez?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously a no-brainer in terms of the sporting events when you've got entire cities' frustrations erupting the way they were. Say what you will, the way they are, rather. Say what you will about the manner in which they're erupting, and I think J.A., touched on it there as well. But the sports, in terms of games being played, I think it's obviously unimportant.
Pablo Torre?
Yeah, when we usually see footage like this, the analogous footage is usually from like the Middle East or Africa, and the excuse for why we don't care and why we don't stop fiddling while cities are burning is because of the distance. It's too far away from us to really empathize with this. It's a no-brainer. I mean, when you look at these rioters, even those opportunists, you should see not just the crimes that are being committed on camera, but also how that's a sad, desperate expression of humanity. I mean, that's the larger issue here. And if we don't empathize with it, what are we even doing really at all?
Bob Ryan?
I remember reading about the race riots in Oklahoma in the 20s, the race riots in Chicago in the 40s. I lived through Watts in the 60s. I lived through Newark. I lived through, all these things, including right up now, including Ferguson and Staten Island. And the one constant of the big riots is simply that, as J.A. has rightly pointed out, the legitimate grievances are there, and we haven't progressed one iota in 60, 70, 80, 90 years toward legitimate, true race relations, but that these things get hijacked by people with an agenda that has nothing to do with the original grievance. And it's pure, when you're looting and when you're harming the lives of legitimate firemen trying to do a job, that has nothing to do with the original grievance.
It's an incredibly complicated discussion and dilemma for all of the country now in Baltimore today. Gentlemen, as columnists, I appreciate the perspective. We'll now transition to sports, and Kevin Love's acute anterior-inferior humeral dislocation with corresponding ligament labrum tearing and humeral head bone bruising. That's what the Cavaliers told us it was. GM David Griffin today said it's highly unlikely he returns this postseason. Also said they're embracing being underdogs now in this postseason. Israel, are they underdogs? What do you think of the situation the Cavaliers are in right now?
They're only not entirely underdogs because I don't think anybody's really convinced of what they're seeing from Atlanta or what they've seen from Chicago. Maybe Washington, but I think that would be a bit of a stretch to just go ahead and put Washington ahead of Cleveland in terms of favorites. What I do think is that it's going to show people that Kevin Love actually did have value on this team, that he's not just some overpriced stretch four who, they could do without. I think obviously, he's been playing really well in this series so far, seemed to embrace the idea of taking on the challenge of the playoffs and forgetting the whole idea of being that stretch four and the role he didn't like. I think they're going to miss him a lot, and I think they're going to have to really, really piece together a rotation to make up for him, and I don't think they'll be able to.
Pablo Torre?
Yeah, I think they're underdogs when they make the NBA Finals, which I still expect them to do. I think the difference is, that ceiling has lowered. Kevin Love, by every on-off-the-court metric, was a very valuable contributor to the Cavs, as Israel had mentioned. But LeBron James, this is the statistic that I think is worth noting. When Kevin Love has been out this year, LeBron James' usage rate, the amount of possessions he uses, has gone to 40%, which is, if it held over an entire year, an NBA record. This is the Godzilla version of LeBron we're going to see. If he can burst through that ceiling, that's how the Cavs maybe make a title run. But until then, I think they come out of the East and then they unfortunately lose to the West.
Bob Ryan?
There are two reasons I do not see them as underdogs. One is the fact that they're in the East, and I worry about the way Chicago's playing. Assuming they get by Milwaukee, Washington.
Assuming they get by Milwaukee.
Washington, come on. I mean, they're okay, but not really. Okay. And the other reason is they have LeBron. And this is where LeBron's going to have to step up. I'm sorry I said that. Where LeBron's going to have to present himself and remind everybody he's the best player in the game. And we're also going to have to find out why it is they're exactly paying Mike Miller and Sean Marion in the first place. Because they're going to have to be out there for something.
So if you're game planning here for life without Kevin Love, it would be to lean on Miller and, Miller's for J.R. Smith is going to be missing 2 games to start the next series.
But just
and Sean Marion.
The point is, LeBron is a queen on the chessboard. He's your 4, he's a 5, he's a 3, he's a 2, he's an 8.
Adonde, where are you? And how do the Cavaliers game plan now?
Without Kevin Love, the Cavaliers are diminished, but they're not doomed. They do still have LeBron James, the best player on the court, anytime he steps on it anywhere in the world. They have Kyrie Irving, who could probably be the second best player on the court on many nights as well. We haven't talked about him. We haven't talked about the fact that the Cavaliers won the most important game of the season, that overtime win at San Antonio, without Kevin Love playing in the fourth quarter or the overtime. So they've shown that they can do things without him. I think you'll see the impact of Tristan Thompson on the boards and Timothy Mozgov defensively.
And Israel Gutierrez after the horn.
And, to Pablo's point there about LeBron's usage rate going up, that could be kind of dangerous if they don't have that ball movement and have that guy out in the perimeter that can knock it down like Kevin Love. Maybe they get trapped into that one-on-one play, and maybe if they face Tom Thibodeau in the second round, that defense really sort of lends itself to stopping that. So it could be problematic for the Bulls.
But it's still a maybe between the Bulls and the Bucks. We're going to get to that in by ourselves. We're going to first talk last night's game, Brooklyn over Atlanta, with Deron Williams' rebirth and the Hawks now hawkish scenario at 2-2, the likes of which they're approximately permanently essentially known for. Are these Hawks the Hawks? Corey, real doubt in Atlanta, or is this about the defibrillation of Deron Williams?
Well, listen, from inside of this Target on Flatbush Avenue, the cheers are not quite deafening, but they are at least audible now. And Deron Williams, absolutely part of that. A guy they tried to trade in December, a guy with knee tendonitis dropping 30-plus last night is huge. But also the Hawks, their front court still banged up, right? Paul Millsap, Al Horford, not the front court of the regular season. But to me, the big key factor in this series is the fact that first-round series in the NBA are 7 games. If this was 5 games, I'm thinking, man, the Nets have a shot to really steal this. With 7 games, I have a hard time believing still that the Hawks are going to regress that far away from what they showed us during the actual regular season.
Bob Ryan, you?
Lots of countless 7-game series have gone to. Then the other team wins 2, and then we settle into 2 out of 3. Maybe go 7, including 1-8. Celtics need to go 7 games with Atlanta back in 2008, if you recall. It was the toughest series they had of the 4 that they had. Look, Atlanta was suspect all year, and right now, as we pointed out, 2 guys are hurt that are important. Kyle Korver can be guarded. We know that, and they're concentrating on Kyle Korver. He has no other way to score but their launch of 3. They're taking that away. It's hurting them. But the Williams thing is utterly inexplicable. Every negative word that was said about him was warranted. Right up to the time
you said quite a few of them, didn't you, Bob Ryan? You called this
right
team
up to the time
Operation Bow Wow. Isn't that what you said that they can do? Operation Bow Wow?
Right until the time they threw the ball up last night. So what he did was absolutely incredible and without explanation whatsoever, and I don't think we're going to see it again.
Well, you've stuck pretty firm to that game plan when you're talking about the Nets. Let's go to Adonde.
The thing is, Bob, even if we don't see a performance like that again from Deron Williams in this series or even in this lifetime, I think it did bode well the fact that he responded so well to the way his coach, Lionel Hollins, defended him over the previous couple of days. And his coach having his back, I think, bodes well for that team. You heard them talk about it last night, that they felt unified. So that's leadership. So I think that can, they can cobble something together.
Jay. Are you beginning to question the Hawks, or at least re-question the Hawks, maybe, or re-question the Hawks?
Well, to me, they weren't the favorite to come out of the East in the first place. And right now, I don't even think they're the favorite to get past the next round if they win this series. I'm sure the Washington Wizards, if they were at the Caps game checking their phones for the scores, had to be very encouraged for what's going on. And yes, it comes down to that 33% three-point shooting percentage, Bob, for Kyle Korver.
Israel, you going to fire on Atlanta here or on Deron Williams?
No, a little bit of both, actually. No, this is what people thought with Atlanta. They can be scouted. They can be defended over the course of a 7-game series. And obviously the Nets defense has been getting better, and Bob mentioned Kyle Korver. But the Deron Williams, it's so amazing. I mean, this guy was hitting or shooting wide open air balls in Game 3, and now he's, shooting fadeaway threes with a man in his face and making those in Game 4. I mean, it's
a huge shot there. Yeah, the shot clock running down. Adonde 9, Gutierrez 6, Corey 7, Ryan 9. Our shot clock running down right now. We'll take a break. Buy or sell next. Coming up, Mad Bum's response to Max Scherzer accusing all pitchers of swinging a wet newspaper. Yo!
Pickup truck commercial?
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico. 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.
Buy or sell.
And the Bucks Bulls, don't forget, Game 3 was double overtime, so this series could easily be 3-2 Milwaukee. Last night in Chicago, so Thursdays at home for the Bucks. Last night was the Michael Carter Williams program. Jay, how did this series become what it is, a series? After all you said it would be what it is, it's not a series. I'm saying all of you, everyone on this panel. Go ahead, Jay.
The Bulls didn't have that closer's mentality. Too many turnovers the previous game, poor shooting last night, an alarming quote from Jimmy Butler saying that he's paying so much attention to scoring, he's forgotten to play at the defensive end.
Right. A lot of turnovers for both teams in this series. Go ahead, Israel.
I don't think it's an alarming quote, Jay. I think that's a good quote from a young guy who sort of was feeling himself a little bit offensively and has to recognize what his roots are, and that's defensively. I think Milwaukee just, look, that's what they do. They turn teams over, and they just got into a rhythm defensively, and now you've got Michael Carter-Williams fighting his offense. They're pretty dangerous.
You still think Chicago's going to win this series, isn't that right, Israel? So is the fix just Butler playing more defense, better defense, focusing on defense?
Just focusing on defense. That whole unit does that.
Pablo, how about you?
Well, the fix is more than Butler. The Bulls from three-point land last night, 4 for 22 from 3, and the guards. I mean, Mr. Derrick Rose, where are you, right? 10 for 41 in that game from the field. That is, and shrinking, by the way, in the fourth quarter. Defense is a priority, but also you got to score the ball, too, against that Bucks team.
Are you beginning to question, then, the Bulls as the winner of this series?
I think it's a coin flip right now, to be honest with you.
A coin flip, all right. How about you, Bob Ryan?
Well, there is a certain Saquon missing about the Bulls right now that I can't quite put my finger on that worries me as somebody who really likes this team. But let me say this. My eyes have been opened by the Bucks. And you hear about athletes and athleticism. Boy, they're loaded with them. And in addition, Chris Middleton, you're a pretty good player.
Okay.
I'm sorry I haven't paid
so
more
you got
attention to
open
you.
eyes now. Are you with Pablo? This is a coin flip that a team can come back from 0-3 down?
I take a lot of credit to be given to the Bucks.
Wow.
Length,
Okay.
Bob, length.
Buy or sell too is Michael Irvin on Jameis Winston and Marcus Mariota not attending this week's draft, rather to be with their families. Quote, this, the NFL, is a family. You're coming into something that is much bigger than you. Don't big time it. And the quote, is he buy or sell Irvin there?
I'm selling it. Since when is big timing being with your friends and family and not in front of everybody else and not in front of the media? I think this is Michael Irvin kind of big timing and saying, forget your family, come hang out with me.
Pablo?
Yeah, is there still time for John Harbaugh to edit that entire quote into his essay on why football is this amazingly virtuous thing? Look, I don't know if it's possible to turn a multi-billion-dollar corporation into your family. And by the way, where was that family when, let's say, Brady Quinn or Johnny Manziel was sitting alone in front of the camera, dropping through the draft? Where was the family at that point?
Bob Ryan?
If you're going to be a top 5 or 10 pick, you belong there. The NFL goes to great trouble to showcase itself. You're plugging into a giant enterprise there.
So you agree with Irvin here?
Yeah, no, I don't agree with him and anything he does. I'm talking in general terms. It's the 6th and 7th rounders that should be sitting home with the friends and the family. Mr. Irrelevant should be home, okay? Not the person, the guy 1-2 in the
I think I
draft.
agree with Michael Irvin, what he said right there. How about you, Adonde?
How come in 2007, when Joe Thomas, the Wisconsin lineman, decided he was going to spend draft day with his dad,
Fishing with his dad,
oh,
yeah.
that's so great, that's so cool, wonderful. So the same thing applies here. I actually love the fact that two of the marquee names in the draft are ignoring it or skipping it and diminishing the importance of this overhyped, overrated event. I'm so glad it's getting less attention in May. They should have stayed in April where they belong.
Okay. You just devoted about 40 seconds to it. You gave it more attention while saying it's getting less attention, Adon. They buy or sell 3. Madison Bumgarner going back at Max Scherzer for the pitcher's swing a wet newspaper comment he had. Here's Mad Bum. Quote, my wet newspaper is 34.5 inches, 33.5 ounces. I'm sure we're talking about that here. Bumgarner. The best smashing pitcher in the game, Pablo Torre. What do you think of what he's saying here?
Look, it is very weird still that we have one league that has a DH and one league that doesn't, but the best argument for having no DH is not the fact that Madison Bumgarner, who by the way is like 0 for 9 right now, sometimes gets hits. It's the fact that we can all see Bartolo Colon go to the plate and try to hit a baseball. That is why the DH should never exist.
Right?
Hey, Bartolo's got an RBI this year, by the way. Look, I've said for several years that having a uniformity is essential. It's stupid to have two different rules. But the reason not to do it, I mean, it's not because these pitchers getting hurt. It's just because we've got to have one set of rules. There's no difference between the leagues otherwise.
Adonde.
Agree with you, Bob. I'm selling Madison Bumgarner because Scherzer was talking about the entertainment factor for the fans, not what the pitchers do. And I've never sat as a fan and watched an American League game and thought, boy, I sure wish I could see the pitcher hit in this game. So I think Scherzer was onto something.
No, I agree with you, J.A., but I'm fine with Madison Bumgarner taking pride in that part of his game. Don't just automatically assume that all these pitchers don't like to hit or can't hit well. He feels like he can, so don't insult him. So in that respect, I'm buying what he said.
We're not saying that all panelists can advance to the lightning round. But one can right now. Israel, what's the last word?
If I really, really wanted to, I could advance myself, but I'm not gonna. I can't believe that you let Pablo get away with a score of the ball without getting a mute there.
Oh, maybe I missed that one. You got some lipstick on your collar anyway, Israel, so we'll let you go take care of that. Adonde Torrey Ryan, lightning round next. Coming up, dry newspaper. That's the preferred stick of Game 7 winners. Stick around.
ESPN Radio.
With the action on the court, the diamond, or the gridiron.
Comes alive.
The NBA.
The San Antonio Spurs are the world champions.
Major League Baseball.
San Francisco Giants are the champions of the baseball world.
A new college football playoff.
College football playoff national champion, the Ohio State Buckeyes.
Your home for the best in sports play-by-play.
ESPN Radio.
Torrey and Ryan 19, Adonde 18, lightning quick in the lightning round. Lightning 1, the Capitals win. Was this about a team exorcising years and years of Game 7 demons? Or about the Islanders face-palmingly only getting 11 shots off of the entire game and not pulling the goal in that power play, Jay?
How about it's about the Capitals winning the game? Forget about the demons, all the decades of futility. I mean, the guy who scored the game-winning goal is only 22 years old. Do you think he's around for all that futility of the past?
No. Torrey?
Look, in the battle between mechanics and narrative, I tend to favor the mechanics. However, the rest of the team, that was one guy. The Capitals have been mired in this, and since Ovechkin got to D.C., 2-5 in Game 7. To hear them talk afterwards, it was like the audience of a Tony Robbins speech. It was kind of incredible to hear how much they cared about that.
Bob Ryan?
If a team only has 11 shots on goal in 60 minutes, one of two things. They're too cautious or they're shut down. I say they were shut down.
Okay.
Therefore, I go with the Capitals winning.
Okay, Lightning 2, Tom Brady in the White House. His excuse was he was spending time with his family. While his team was with the president, he was seen at Gillette Stadium stretching, and then a day later at the Apple Store in Manhattan checking out Apple Watch. Pablo, what do you think this is all about?
Well, I think it's about the fact that Tom Brady apparently needs to show up in person to Apple stores to get an Apple Watch. Really? He's not getting the VIP package from Tim Cook there. But I also think if the argument is that Tom Brady should have shown up, it's because he wants to seem like the bigger man. But if you're Tom Brady, can you really feel any bigger than you already are?
Bob Ryan?
Well, I suppose it's conceivable. It's a political statement since he did manage to show up 3 times for a Republican president. And if it's not, and he got caught in a bold-faced lie, and if he's crying and weeping because they made fun of him, I'm very disappointed in Tom Brady. Period.
Okay, we'll make sure he knows that. How about you, Adonde?
I think Tom Brady was exercising his right to do whatever he wants, much like Michael Jordan in 1991, who skipped the White House visit, used family as an excuse, and it turned out he was golfing and gambling with his buddies down in Carolina.
So what's right for Jordan is right for Brady, is that what you're saying, Adonde? Nobody thinks it's about the jokes made about the Flakegate, about Brady's press conference from
probably all.
That's sensitive.
that could be, okay. 21, Jay, you're the next to go. What's the last word?
Next time I will step up and score the ball, to use the cliches used by our finalists.
How dare you? How dare you?
Bob, that's our showdown next. Straight ahead, whether telling your team to go ahead and draft your replacement to motivate yourself is a strategy that maybe might backfire. Tori and Ryan, no time for jibber jabber. Good luck in Showdown. Showdown 1, Spurs Clippers tonight. How pivotal is a pivotal game 5, and what does it pivot on, Pablo?
Well, it's the third most pivotal game after 6 and 7, but it pivots on Austin Rivers, who has increased scoring every game he's played, leading all reserve players in the last one. If he goes off again, this series is completely different.
The pressure is on the Clippers. They need the game. Yes, it is an important game for them if they're going to win this series. And I hate to be mean, too, but yes, the bench in general. They need some bench production.
Bench in general?
And
Okay,
Austin
winner
Rivers
of
gave it
tonight's
to them
game
last
win
night.
this series? Is anyone willing to say that?
No.
Only if it's the Clippers.
So what are we doing here then? We'll give a point, we'll move on. Showdown 2, challenging your team to draft your replacement, as Andrew Whitworth kind of did in the Cincinnati Enquirer. Here's his quote. Mess up and draft somebody at my position because you're going to sit around and watch and sit the bench, end quote. Bob, good move or bad move for the oldest starting left tackle in the league to say this?
Good for him. If he doesn't stick up for himself and give himself some pub, who will? I never heard of the guy. Therefore, good for him. Now I have. Fine.
Well, that doesn't have to be just older players. How about the younger? Replace me. Try and replace me. Find somebody else who loves robots and space and dinosaurs. Try it. I'm here. I'm sitting on the bench.
That's going to win the argument, Bob. It's tough to win a point when you're saying I've never heard. Pablo, take the FaceTime.
Speaking of weird things that young people like, I happened to stumble upon Heroes of the Dorm on Sunday night on ESPN2.
I knew you were going to talk
idea
about
it was
this.
happening. I can hear the groans already, but guess what? This thing, after looking into it more, is absolutely here to stay. If I could buy stock in it, I absolutely would, but it turns out that Amazon already bought the platform that broadcasts live games with these broadcasters for $1 billion already. The announcing team, by the way, was absolutely incredible. I watched for 2 hours. 2 hours! I had no idea if this was like an improv scene or not. It was fantastic.
Thank you for doing this on FaceTime, Pablo. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask Bob Ryan his take on video games on television.
Play sports.
Yeah.
All right, that's facing it up. That's going to do it, folks. Thanks for coming around.
Two of baseball's best go head-to-head in interleague action when the Tigers head to St. Louis to face the Cardinals. That one is gone. The pregame at 7 Eastern, first pitch at 8, Sunday on ESPN and ESPN Radio.